While most men are busy posting gym selfies, bragging about their achievements, and constantly trying to prove themselves to everyone around them, there's one behavior that immediately separates high-value men from everyone else. And here's what's crazy. It's not what you think. Most people believe high-value men are the loudest in the room, the ones constantly talking about their success, showing off their wealth, or name-dropping their connections. But that's exactly backwards. The truth is far more counterintuitive and infinitely more powerful. This single trait determines whether you'll be respected or dismissed in any room you walk into, whether you'll naturally attract people or constantly chase their attention, whether you'll lead effortlessly or struggle to get anyone to follow you. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the psychological principle that governs true confidence, something most men spend their entire lives trying to figure out. Here's what I've observed after years of studying human behavior and working with hundreds of men. The majority are trapped in what I call the validation cycle. They're unconsciously seeking approval through every interaction, every conversation, every decision they make. You see it everywhere. The guy at work who can't make a point without mentioning his MBA from a prestigious university. The man at a party who dominates every conversation talking about his latest business deal or workout routine. The person on social media constantly posting about their achievements, waiting for likes and comments to feel good about themselves. But here's where it gets interesting from a psychological perspective. These men think they're displaying confidence, but they're actually broadcasting the opposite. They're screaming to the world, "Please validate me. Please tell me I'm worthy. Please approve of who I am." And everyone around them can sense it, even if they can't articulate why something feels off. Think about the last time you were in a conversation with someone who kept steering it back to their accomplishments. How did that feel? Probably exhausting, right? That's because your subconscious mind immediately recognizes validation-seeking behavior, and it triggers a subtle feeling of discomfort. So what's really happening here? Let's dive into the psychology. There are two ways human beings can operate: with an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. Most men operate from an external locus of control without even realizing it. Their mood, their self-worth, their decisions are all influenced by how others react to them. They're constantly looking outward for confirmation that they're on the right track. High-value men operate from an internal locus of control. They have their own metrics for success. They define their own values. Their sense of worth isn't dependent on whether someone likes their Instagram post or agrees with their opinion in a meeting. Here's what's fascinating about this from a neuroscience perspective. When you're constantly seeking validation, your brain is stuck in a state of chronic stress. You're always scanning the environment for threats to your social status, always worried about what others think. This actually makes you less attractive, less charismatic, and less influential. But when you operate from internal validation, something powerful happens. Your nervous system relaxes. You become more present. People can feel your genuine confidence because it's not dependent on their approval. And here's the paradox that most men never understand. The less you need validation from others, the more respect and admiration you naturally command. The one thing. So what is the one thing high-value men never do? They never seek validation from others for their self-worth. Let me be crystal clear about what this means, because there's a lot of confusion around this concept. This doesn't mean they don't care what anyone thinks. That's sociopathy, not confidence. High-value men absolutely listen to feedback. They consider other perspectives. They value the opinions of people they respect. But they don't need those opinions to feel worthy as human beings. This doesn't mean they're cold or antisocial. In fact, it's the opposite. When you're not desperately seeking approval, you can actually connect with people authentically. You can be genuinely curious about their lives instead of waiting for your turn to talk about yourself. And this definitely doesn't mean you fake confidence until you make it. Genuine confidence comes from doing the internal work to actually respect yourself, not from pretending you don't care what others think. How this shows up in real life. Let me give you some examples of how this plays out in the real world. In professional settings, the low-value approach is constantly mentioning your credentials, over-explaining every decision you make, or dropping names to establish your importance. You feel the need to justify why you belong in every room. The high-value approach is letting your results speak for themselves, being comfortable with silence in meetings, making decisions confidently without needing everyone's approval first. Your presence alone communicates competence. In social situations, the low-value approach is dominating conversations with stories about your achievements, constantly trying to one-up others, or fishing for compliments about your appearance or success. The high-value approach is asking thoughtful questions about others, being genuinely curious about their experiences, and contributing to conversations without needing to be the center of attention. In relationships, the low-value approach is constantly seeking reassurance, getting jealous when your partner talks to others, or needing them to constantly affirm your worth. The high-value approach is being securely attached, supporting your partner's growth without feeling threatened, and bringing value to the relationship without keeping score. So how do you make this shift? How do you move from external validation to internal validation? First, you need awareness. Start paying attention to your validation-seeking patterns. Notice when you're performing versus when you're being authentic. Catch yourself when you're explaining yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it adds value to the conversation, or because I want people to think well of me? Am I making this decision because it aligns with my values, or because I'm worried about what others will think? Second, you need to do the internal work. This means developing your own personal value system, not what society tells you to value, but what actually matters to you. It means regular self-reflection, understanding your strengths and weaknesses honestly, and building genuine self-respect through aligned actions. You can't respect yourself if you're constantly betraying your own values for other people's approval. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you pretend to be someone you're not, every time you compromise your integrity for social acceptance, you're eroding your own self-worth. Third, you need to start making behavioral shifts. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Get comfortable with the fact that some people won't like you, won't understand you, won't approve of your choices. That's not only okay, it's inevitable if you're living authentically. Start focusing on contribution rather than recognition. Instead of asking, how can I impress these people? Ask, how can I add value here? Instead of seeking to be understood, seek to understand others. Fourth, understand the compound effect. When you make this shift, people start treating you differently. They sense your authenticity. They feel your genuine confidence. You develop what I call a magnetic quality, not because you're trying to attract attention, but because you're comfortable with yourself. Let me address some common misconceptions about this concept. The first myth is that high-value men don't care what anyone thinks. That's not true. They care about feedback for growth and learning, but they don't need validation for their worth as human beings. There's a massive difference between being open to input and being dependent on approval. The second myth is that this means being cold or antisocial. Actually, when you're not desperately seeking validation, you become more warm and present with others. You can listen without agenda. You can connect without neediness. The third myth is that you should fake this confidence until you make it. But authentic confidence can't be faked. People can sense the difference between genuine self-assurance and performed confidence. The latter actually repels people because it feels inauthentic. The daily practice. Here's what I want you to do. For the next 24 hours, I challenge you to go without seeking any form of validation. Don't post anything on social media looking for likes or comments. Don't bring up your achievements in conversations unless directly relevant. Don't explain yourself to people who haven't earned an explanation. Notice how this feels. Notice the urge to seek approval and just sit with it. This awareness alone will be transformative. For long-term change, ask yourself these questions every evening. Did I make decisions today based on my values or others' expectations? Did I contribute to conversations or just try to impress people? Did I respect myself through my actions today? Remember, this isn't about becoming perfect overnight. It's about developing awareness and gradually shifting from external validation to internal validation. The deeper truth. Here's what most men never realize. The respect, admiration, and influence they're desperately seeking through validation-seeking behavior can only come when they stop seeking it. It's one of life's great paradoxes. When you need nothing from others, you can give everything to them. When your worth isn't dependent on their approval, you can serve them authentically. When you're not performing for validation, people can finally see who you really are. This is what separates high-value men from everyone else. Not their bank account, not their physical appearance, not their social status, but their relationship with themselves and their independence from others' opinions of them. The moment you stop needing validation from the world is the moment the world starts giving it to you freely. But by then, you won't need it anymore. And that's when you'll understand what true confidence really means. The choice is yours. You can spend your life chasing approval from people who may or may not even respect you, or you could develop such a strong relationship with yourself that their approval becomes irrelevant. High-value men choose the latter. What will you choose?